All right, you got to hold your breath. Oh, wait. We are live.
Good.
What's up, Kingdom of Rock? This is Matt Gibson.
Good to be here.
And I'm here today for a second time with my co-host, Mike Molenda. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, Mike.
I'm fine.
Mike.
It's sunny.
It's still sunny.
It's still
in San Francisco. And also, we are here with our awesome guests, Les Carlsen and Michael Bloodgood from the band Bloodgood, one of my favorite bands of all times, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Love you.
And we're just we're all in the middle of this global pandemic, and the music industry's in flames, and innovations happening, and we're rebuilding and having drive-in concerts now, and all kinds of craziness, and everything's changing and turning upside down, So question, how has this thing affected you guys? Have you lost any gigs out of the pandemic, or what's happening?
Just all of them.
Just all of them?
Just all
Well,
I think we have to negate the question, Matt, and just go, okay, we know you've lost all your gigs, so what are you doing about it?
Just tell us how your life sucks worse
this is
right
what
now.
we do now. We do podcasts with
pretty much. Yeah.
Right.
Professional podcasters. That's awesome.
Well, we had a Trenches of Rock, which is the name of a documentary film, world tour, printed T-shirts. Thankfully, we didn't put what year it was.
Oh, you were smart about that.
One show so far, and that was in our hometown here in Seattle. So everything got canceled. We may be hitting Germany in October, but I just don't. None of us know, of course, how long this thing's going to stretch out. So
we're still on for Germany.
Yeah.
We haven't pulled the plug on that one yet. We will do these other dates next year, though.
They've been rescheduled for 2021 for the dates we have now.
Yeah. But this year, it changed our plan, and our had a little bit of income as well that it changed. But we're okay, right? You okay, Mikey?
Well, I'm setting up a GoFundMe when we're done here. So
we actually, the only way that Les and Mike would come on here is if we paid their rent for this month. So we had to.
Oh, that's awesome.
But we don't have any money either, because we're both musicians.
Taking out of my end of the podcast.
Michael actually is working. He could probably pay for some of that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No, we're okay, right, Mike? We're good.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in a guitar store here in Seattle for 15 years, and they shut their door permanently because of the COVID. So
wow,
I'm out of that, but I'm still, I'm still a pastor.
So they weren't even able to wait till we get back. They just completely shut down forever.
Yeah. The landlord would not cut him any slack, and the owner said, "I'm going to be tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, in debt whenever the thing's going to allowed us to be open." He just said, I just can't do it. The business right next to it, which was a PC recycle shop, did the same thing. So the whole thing is just turning into, empty footage. So things are not going to go back to normal as we know normal.
So what Mike did is he bought a bunch of guitars from the guy before he went out of business, right? How many do you have anyway, Michael?
I think I have about 15 guitars.
15 guitars.
Including basses.
That's kind of a sad story to hear, though. The shop had been there for 15 years, and the landlord wouldn't cut any slack at all.
Nope. He just said, quote unquote, no gifts. That was his response when the tenants reached out to him. So now he has no income.
No income. There are no gifts for him either.
And then right down the street, there's a great guitar. Well, you might know Mike Lowell's Guitars. We're literally a couple blocks from Mike Lowell's shop. God rest his soul. But their landlord said, "Look, just keep the water paid and the electricity paid, and don't worry about anything until the stores open up again." Now that's being a human being. Not everybody's coming out that way.
Yeah, because
not everybody's gifted in those areas. Generosity, kindness, goodness, that kind of stuff. Fruit of the Spirit doesn't exist.
Well, there's that,
yeah.
Well,
so
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, no kidding. But so how did you guys have anything on the burners when this happened? Are you writing anything, or what's going on with progress forward while you're sheltered in?
Well, it definitely made us reestablish what we're doing, and that's one of the things is writing. And so we're going to start exchanging, we each have our own little home studios, start trading that, maybe do some Zoom stuff. Les and I were just talking about a couple hours ago, just doing a Zoom meeting and trading some ideas with each other. We have some back projects that are now going to go to the front. When we did our last album, it's called Dangerously Close. We actually did a cover version off of Rubber Soul, The Word, but it was only released in Europe. So most of the people in the States don't know about it. And even speaking of being too young, of all the reviews we got of Dangerously Close in Europe, nobody even noticed that it was a cover song. So I feel good that was Les and I were credited with being a Lennon and McCartney song, but I've been wanting to cover that song forever. And so we did it. We meddled it out, and and of course everybody in the band can sing, and so we did the big vocal thing. But we're gonna all that to say we're gonna be re-releasing Dangerously Close, like a bonus track or a different artwork or something. And we have an unfinished project from All Stand Together. That was one of our last studio records we did down in Newport Beach. And so David Zafiro, our original guitar player, is helping us out and mixing it and mastering it. So we have a lot of back projects that are now going to be pushed to the forefront while we're sitting at home.
So we want to write new material too.
Yeah.
So that we're starting to talk about that.
Yeah.
And I've written a whole bunch of stuff here on my own. So I don't know that it's Bloodgood stuff, but there's a lot of lyrics that I've written that will work for Bloodgood. So yeah, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
But we're just kind of revamping the plan.
I did want to mention that to everyone out there that both Michaels and Les have the same hat that Michael's wearing, which I thought was very interesting. So I was wanted little Kingdom of Rock trivia.
Maybe it could be a side project that we do where we all wear the hats. We look cool.
That would be cool.
If you're looking for something to do, we could start a trio with just everybody in these hats.
Yeah.
That could be the next band merch.
We'll call it men with hats.
Yeah.
You got to be a certain age to know what that joke is too.
And then you could say like, I'm too sexy, but I'm leaving my shirt on instead of sexy for my shirt.
Well, we don't cause people to stumble out there,
Oh, okay.
It could be an entire wardrobe thing.
We lost control of this pretty fast. Wow.
We'll see how we work. See how we work together. It's good.
I'm beginning to know this.
This is called collaboration, people. This is what the pandemic is for. Is for the minds to meet and come up with these innovations. So
speaking, hey Les, do you worry as a vocalist? Keeping your chops up. Because it's a big difference between singing on stage and singing at home and practicing. It's like, do you have any routine that you do? Like, because it could be months before you're back out. So how are you kind of keeping your stamina together?
Yeah, you always have to sing. It's certainly a different level when you hit the stage, but actually, I've been able to keep it together pretty good. Just by writing and recording my voice on new material that I write, or singing. Well, I don't sing in church anymore because they can't go to church. But I've been able to stay in good shape vocally. But I know what you're saying. If you're not if you're really grooving a lot, you're playing a lot, singing a lot, you're way more on top of your gig. I think that's true with any player, any instrument.
Although I think guitarists have it easy. We can just what is it like vocalists, they can't party and survive. Like guitarists and instrumentalists can at least part. I don't drink anymore, but back in the day.
What are you saying, Matt? What are you saying?
I drink. I'm drinking. But
I have to drink water.
Well, I think it's been interesting with the Sheltered In because I play a lot of instruments badly. And while I can work on guitar tracks, obviously on my laptop and with headphones, no one has to hear what I'm doing. You've got all these software amps and all that kind of stuff. It is a little difficult to do drum tracks and singing because, I am in a house that's separate, but my wife is here too, as well as two dogs. And I'm not so sure they want to hear singing or drums during the day. So we're trying to figure out how to make this happen. It's just like
make them part of the band.
Yeah, it is kind of a for a vocalist. Sometimes I just want to just sing, just belt it out, and like people are doing stuff in the house, like it's like, well, thank you, but so sometimes you just don't get to sing as much as you'd like to, just belt it out. So you find that you're kind of a little bit below the radar, and then all of a sudden it's live concert time. But I've managed.
So Michael, go ahead, Les.
The thing about rock is it doesn't matter if there's a little extra gravel, a little extra grind. It's fine. Just work it in.
Yeah.
So you guys have been together for a long time, right?
Yes.
Like Michael, why don't you kind of tell the story of how you got into music and how you guys met and all that stuff, and let Kingdom of Rock kind of know you a little bit about your history.
Yeah, well, I got into rock like most guys my age when I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show as a kid in glorious black and white, and that was it for me. When I saw the girls screaming and I saw George Harrison's Country Gentleman, I just said, oh my gosh, I just fell in love with that band. I'm still in love with them and music. So that was my catalyst. The Bloodgood, of course, that was many years later when we started the band. I was working in another guitar store. I've been doing that on and off since the 80s. And all the clients coming, this is like Seattle, early 80s, or just all metalheads. And I thought, man, I'd like to reach out to these guys. How am I going to do it? So a friend of mine, Rick Stone, we just said, hey, let's just pray about and talk about, how maybe something could come. Now, neither of us had any intentions of doing it ourselves. I'm a Beatle guy. I didn't want, I'd never even thought about doing metal. But the longer I thought about it and prayed about it, it became very personal to me. And so I went into a record shop near a mall, and I knew the gal that ran it. I can't remember what the name of the shop was anymore. And I said, give me your 6 best metal records. So I got Dio and Priest and, all the guys, right? Maiden. And I just put it down, and I just fell in love with the whole vibe and the whole energy. And I thought, man, this is a great marriage between the gospel and the Old Testament and stuff, in this heavy music. And I just kind of gave myself into it. And as time went on, I just kept, I recruited my first drummer, JT Taylor, and the two of us would meet and we'd be praying about it. And then David Zafiro, our first guitar player, came along. I knew Dave I knew both these guys for years. I knew what a shredder he was. And then of course the missing element was a singer, because there was no such thing as Christian metal. I mean, it didn't exist. It was an oxymoron. Some people still think it is. And so I put a little ad in a local magazine called The Rocket, and I said, I wanted a heavy metal Christian singer, well-grounded in the word, and just kind of put it out there. And I wish we had reality TV back then, because, I could do a whole series on the people that came in to say they could do it. Most of them I would just scare them. I'd put on Dio, I can't remember, We Rock, and I would just, can you do this? Oh, no, and then finally I did the same thing with Les. He goes, yeah, I can do that. I go, okay. So, I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version. So a few months later, we all met over coffee at the old something dog cafe. I can't remember what it's called now in Seattle.
Coffee in Seattle?
Yeah. What? And we just decided, we hadn't heard Les sing. He hadn't heard us play, the three of us, but we just really felt this is what we're supposed to do. And we started rehearsing the band. We started writing original music. And then we heard about Stryper, and we go, oh, man, something's happening. And the local promoter here, Joe Blaylock, wanted a Christian band to open up for Stryper, which Stryper usually doesn't do or didn't do back in those days. But he came and watched us. I think we got to maybe 2 or 3 songs tops, right, Les? And he said, "You're on the bill."
Yeah,
so
it was Joe.
What was that?
I was just say it was Joe Blaylock, but it was also Dick Adams, the road manager for Heart.
Right, that's right.
Came in because they were promoting the Stryper show.
Right. So that was our first show. We opened up for Stryper in Billingham. Then a day after that, or 2 days after that, we opened up for the Paramount Theater in downtown Seattle. And the rest is history.
1,500 people at the Paramount was our second gig. Time magazine was there.
What year was this?
1985.
85. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was Les a diva back then? Did he have the lead singer disease? Is that a real thing, by the way, Michael? I'm asking you as a bass player.
I'm not going to answer that because Les is my.
No, it's actually funny.
I only say this because I talk to Les all the time. I've given him some crap, but
It was actually funny in my experience, interviewing a lot of guitar players on tour and everything, where there was a time where everybody would be on stage for the sound check. And then for some reason, about, 2000 onward, even with a lot of the, the legacy bands or the legendary bands, all of a sudden I started seeing the singers not showing up till the show. And I kind of went, what is the deal? And it's like, well, it's the singer. They don't have to show up as long as their monitors are fine. They don't care. And it became a real thing. I said, I can't believe singers aren't showing up for sound checks. What the heck's going on?
Well, that's never been our problem. Les is there. Les is a great sound man on top of it. So he's kind of the guy that's going out there to the board, because a lot of times we're doing flyout dates.
Yeah.
And so we've got a guy who, and so, Les has got these killer ears, and he'll tell you what frequency it is that needs to be changed. So there's no way we're gonna do a sound check without Les, without any of us, obviously.
Yeah, contrary to that disease that some lead singers get, I used to drive the truck. I used to help unload the truck, load it back up, design the sets. I mean, so no, I'm just into it. I just love. It's like the circus, I love it.
Singers should not send me hate mail. It's not like I'm putting down singers. It's just something I noticed. So singers, please do not write Kingdom of Rock and say, Mike, blah, blah.
But Michael Molenda, I think you're correct. That does exist. I mean, people do have that syndrome.
I have
drummers. You want drummers. We got a lot of syndromes with drummers, but that's another topic.
What do you do if you sing and play? I'm having an identity crisis. Sometimes I think I'm a diva and a shredder. Yeah. And so I really have all these problems with myself.
And a fox.
It's one of those things I guess you can get better at. I think you either have got it or you don't. I mean, not saying egotistically, you either have it. Because, I play bass and sing a lot in the background. And somebody says, well, how can you do that? I never thought about it. And I wish they'd never said it. I go, I don't know. How can I do it? But it's like, I played drums as a kid too, and you've got to really separate your brain into these different areas. And I think maybe that carried over, but I never thought about, singing, playing bass being a problem. So I'm glad it's not.
Yeah. So we always tell people in interviews, don't bring it up.
Yeah.
It's working good. Don't ask him if he can sing and play bass at the same time. It presents a problem. So don't ask.
So today it's going to, I'm the guy that ruined Bloodgood because I asked you didn't brief me about that question, Les.
Sorry. I guess my people didn't reach out to you, huh?
Well, I think it's basically fine. I think what screwed a lot of bass players / singers up is when Sting came on the scene, and it's like he's playing off beat to what he's singing. So that all of a sudden became like,
yeah.
Well,
he probably had a guy behind this curtain.
When you see some of the licks he's doing, even live, you're just going, whoa.
Matt. Such a troublemaker, Matt.
Yes.
No, he's like the Wizard of Oz. That like 20 years from now, we're going to find out Sting just had a ghost bass player. We thought he was syncopated and could sing at the same time. No, I'm just kidding. Sting, if you're out there listening, we do want you to be on the show, and I'm not.
Yes.
I love you, brother.
Oh, yeah. Please come on the show.
Speaking of things behind the curtain, I learned in the green room that you guys do a lot of highly theatrical work, and I've always been interested in that because I want rock to evolve, obviously, and music to evolve and into theater in a good way. So, can you give the Kingdom of Rock peeps just a little insight at what started that and how you maintain something like that? Because it brings in so many disciplines as well as people into the fold.
Okay, so, I was in Hair. I was, which was a rock opera show sort of thing. And I was in that show with Kenny Ortega. And Kenny Ortega is a film director, choreographer. And when I left Hair, then I always thought, I should be in I like the theatrics of rock. And then Kenny started directing and choreographing the Tubes. Mm-hmm. Remember the Tubes? You ever see a Tube show?
I'm in San Francisco. There are legends here.
Okay. So he was working with the Tubes, and I went and saw the Tubes, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I mean, I don't want to just be a rock band that stands there in the light and does their thing. I mean, I want to show plus play together, So then I just did that, got in a band with my wife. We did a lot of real showy stuff. But when I got into Bloodgood and we had the material like Crucify and Messiah and Soldier of Peace, it just, all the music opened up all these ideas for choreography and to make it visual. And so we just started working on stuff like that. So we'd be the kind of band that if I'm on stage and I walk by the guitar player, I hit the front of his neck and he spins around because he knows that's what you do in Bloodgood. And if they're both together, I walk through them and they spin out like a door that opens, like a revolving door. And we just started to have these secondary or just second nature moves. And then we finally did Crucify and Messiah, where I was Pontius Pilate and I came out with the robe and looking like Pontius Pilate saying, "Here's your king," and they're screaming "Crucify." And I say, "I wash my hands of this man's blood." And I throw the crown off in the robe, turn around, stretch my arms, and these guys whip me with their guitars.
And we kick you.
And kicked me when I fall and kicked me. So we just sort of portrayed the action of the crucifixion through rock. Obviously,
did you sit down and script that out, though? It's one thing to have the guitarists know they have to do certain things at certain times, but this sounds like this is a fairly deep choreographed situation.
It was. There were times when I had a sword, and Michael knew I'm gonna swing this sword at your knees, so you better jump, because there's a certain time when I come over with this sword, I'm gonna swing it, and about ankle level. But
and I just want to interject, Michael. That's why I wear prosthetics now. I didn't jump at the right time. So. But it's all rock and roll.
You can't see
he's
it.
6 inches shorter.
I salute your going on with no limbs left. That
yes,
is
and that's why I don't have a lot of money, because he sued me, and I lost.
Was the whole band involved in the presentation and charting these things out, or was it mostly between you and Michael, Les, or how did that come about?
We had guest choreographers come in. I know Joyce, Les's wife, choreographed it. We had, and it wasn't just the band. We had a whole background.
Well, you're talking about the Rock Theater.
Yeah, I was talking about that. We actually filmed this as a show. It's a 2-part show that we did, and we have actors coming on. We had a guy portraying Jesus. We had a makeup artist that when they started whipping him, the skin would come off and he would bleed. So it wasn't just 4 guys on a stage. It was
But
us,
I do,
all this other stuff.
But I do want to clarify what I was talking about was the 4-piece band doing rock theater without the whole show. What he's talking about is that we went and did this entire theatrical production, and then we had a guy play Jesus, and we brought in actors and dancers, and then we upped the game.
Yeah.
But
Well, you've done it both ways. I think that, once again, we're talking about how does music survive after the pandemic? How can we evolve our creativity? And what Bloodgood has done is interesting, because other musicians can hopefully be inspired by what your band has done, but not everybody can afford to hire a makeup artist, a choreographer, blah, blah, blah. So would there be, since you've done it both ways, the band and a full production, are there any tips that you could give someone who wanted to get theatrical about where to start, how to avoid pitfalls, etc.?
It
has to be in your blood to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
I know Les was in Harry, Andrew Lloyd Webber, but he forgot to mention that I was drama club president in high school. So
no.
But I'm being silly, obviously, but it was in my blood. Theatrics and drama were in my blood. And so we get guys together that think that way, then it becomes, if you try to force it, it's not going to work. But if you have guys that just, let's try this, they're not afraid to, to put it out there,
you got to do it.
It's going to happen. I don't think you can make it happen, but it's just like you said, when you give more people, you give them more to go home with. If you're just up there, like you say, strutting your stuff and playing your licks and all that, that's fine. But when you add those kind of elements, I mean, when we do Crucified Messiah, at the end, after Les has been crucified, as Christ, there's a blackout, and then there's birds chirping, and then Les goes into a monologue about, imagine it's the morning of the crucifixion, and you're standing there looking at, and so you have all these levels that you can create, not just musically, but theatrically as well. And I think again, it's going to give fans more to go home with and think about, and hopefully really get into their hearts, hopefully.
Yeah, it creates emotion. But I want to, when you brought up that, the 4-piece or the theatrical, I kind of see it like a really good song can be played on an acoustic guitar. And if it's a really good song, it's going to stand on its own with an acoustic guitar. And theatrics can be the same thing. If a 4-piece group can do it and make it believable theatrically, then when they put together a big show, they've just got all the bells and whistles and all the extra stuff. But if they couldn't do it as a 4-piece without everything, they probably can't do it on a larger level either. So it's kind of the same thing as music. Just good songs are good songs. Good theatrics are good theatrics.
So you guys recently were the subject of a movie that was made. Is that true?
Yes.
Why don't you talk about that a little bit? I'm gonna pop it up here on the
oh, great.
Too. I'm gonna share the screen.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about Trenches of Rock.
It's a full-length documentary on the band. Trenches of Rock, subtitle is The Metal Mission of Bloodgood. It was starting out originally, my son, Paul Michael, directed and produced it along with my daughter-in-law, Anne Marie. And it's about Bloodgood and how we started and all that. And it was going to just be initially about how do you keep a band together as long as we've been together? Because we've been together since basically '84. Then as James Moll, I was mentioning, who was the executive producer for the Foo Fighters, back and forth, kind of came on board and was mentoring Paul a little bit and kind of guiding him. And he saw the controversy, the people, the death threats that we had out there, the people picketing our shows, the televangelists saying that we're the devil and all that stuff. And he said, oh, that's the story. That's an interesting story that anybody can get into, Christian or not. And so that's kind of how the song, it is about the band and personnel changes and all the things we went through in all these decades, but it's just about the controversy and the things that we did and what we went through. And it's turned out to be an exciting film. It was in the film circuit for about a year and a half, film festivals all over the world. It won 12 awards, including Best Documentary, Directing, Editing, many accolades. And so it was just released in late December, hard copies only. But Paul is now negotiating with some major streaming companies, so hopefully it'll be streaming sometime near you, kids. Theater. I don't know, but anyway, we're really excited about it.
You guys were spreading the word with rock music, and that became controversial. That blows my mind.
Well, I mean, it kind of comes. It's one of those funny things. I started doing Christian rock when my second year in college, and this is back in the 70s. And even then, we were doing a show in Pasadena. Some of the parishioners came in and saw my electric guitar sitting on a stand. They got up and left because the electric guitar is a tool of the devil. I mean, just that. So that's kind of been, I've been kind of experiencing that my whole life as a Christian artist. And so this wasn't really much of a shock. It's sad, but in the long run, it really gave us a lot of free publicity, because we had these protesters there. And of course, the mainstream media is going, why would people not want you to do this? I mean, you're bringing a positive message and you're trying to help kids, and we don't understand it. And that's, so it kind of followed us around, especially those first few years that we were playing. It was very controversial, but I say it helped us publicity wise, because a lot of people were just curious about, why is everybody freaking out about this band and what they're doing? But it's a sad state of affairs too, that people would, get up in arms about something as simple as, playing rock music. But it's kind of followed me around my whole life. It's just kind of the way it is, unfortunately.
Well, that kind of brings up a point about what's going on in the country today. And I don't mean this like disrespectfully to government. This isn't really a political thing, but like most churches were shut down as non-essential businesses, right?
Yeah.
But there's a huge humanitarian aspect of many churches.
Right.
And where they're providing support to the communities. And of course, you don't want everyone meeting together and getting sick and getting other people sick in that way. But kind of the way that they did it and said that the church is not an essential service for the community seems a little bit off. And you're a pastor of a church. What's your take on that, Michael?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we got shut down before anybody else did, because apparently, we rent from a city government here, and apparently they didn't tell us that somebody had COVID, so they shut down all their rental facilities, including ours. And we were out on the street. I'm doing Zoom services like a lot of guys are, but it's true, because my church, we support 2 homeless ministries in Seattle. We support a homeless ministry in Nashville, Tennessee. We support an orphanage in Mexico City, or outside of Mexico City, missionaries in Germany. And so by shutting us down, and on a lot of these churches, you're shutting down a lot of humanitarian efforts, because I've seen the test that if you took the church, if you just got rid of the church, which some of these governments would probably like to do, the services that would be stopped would be horrendous. And then all of a sudden now the government's going to left to try and pick up that bill, or that, which they can't do, and they don't do it very well anyway. Where, if somebody gives $100 to my church, $10 immediately goes right into the field somewhere. It's not being cut up and divided and stuff and given 50 cents or whatever. It goes right to these people that really need our money and our help. So yeah, it's very much a disservice. I was telling a podcast a while ago, I've been declared non-essential 3 times, as a pastor, as a musician, and as a guitar salesman. So it's just like,
well, do you feel that it was just an unfortunate choice of words saying non-essential? Because obviously you don't want people in your church, as Matt said earlier, to possibly get other people sick. So, I mean, theaters have had to close down. Obviously, music venues have had to close down. All of these things have some spreading of joy and humanity and good feelings to I'm not comparing them to a church, but maybe it was just an unfortunate choice of words, because I don't think they want to shut down any of the humanitarian work that you do. And of course, it's silly to say that anything is non-essential. It's just you don't want people getting sick by having them all in the same place. That's all.
But I think, a lot of times these politicians would do these blanket things that, not really thinking through what are the implications. Like all of a sudden, again, as a pastor, I had to completely rethink, well, how do I keep my church going? How do I keep connecting with people without touching them and seeing them? And again, thankfully with Zoom and FaceTime and all these other formats we have. But again, it was just like, oh my gosh, I got to figure out how I'm going to do this. And so it made it more difficult, and it just changed it. But you know what? We're all going through that in some sort of a fashion, whether we're, musicians or store clerks or whatever it is. But I think there has been, I'm going to say it too, there's been some animosity. I know one governor says, make sure if you guys see any synagogues or churches meeting that you tell us. And that kind of stuff's like, really? That's who you're going to come after? It seems a little bit lopsided, but it doesn't matter, because you can't stop the word of God. You can't stop, what's going on out there. So you keep trucking along like we all have to.
I would hope. And I have to admit that, of the 4 of us here, I'm the non-church goer, but I would hope that this pandemic would not harm or even kneecap anyone's belief in God or belief in humanity. Yeah, we can't meet together in a church. I can't go to a movie theater. I can't gig. Yeah. Schools have had to reassess how they teach people. You have had to reassess how you preach to people. I don't think anybody knew what this was going to do to our daily lives. We kind of had to on the fly,
Right.
So I'm just hoping that, it's kind of a Shirley Temple view here, or a hippie view. I just hope that there's not any governmental, there's no kind of Machiavellian plan to kind of shut down churches. That would, it would be impossible, because you have your flock. They're never going to leave you. They just might have to do it online. But I would hate to see animosity. That just sucks in any field.
Well, like one thing too, like a lot of churches, they have direct ministries to the homeless. Like our friend Bob Beeman, he's got a ministry down in Nashville, and they feed about 1,000 homeless people a day down there.
It's amazing. And that's one of the ones we support. That's what I was referring to when I said we support a homeless ministry in Nashville. It's Bob Beeman's.
Yeah, and so like the getting of people together thing, it's not so much the service or the religious practices or anything like that. It's more of the being able to bring everyone together to mobilize to go help and things. It's just kind of it can be crippling, but I mean, I think people are innovating. I think we're changing, we're adapting, and trying to like make it work for everybody. You know,
there have been people who have been very successful at feeding homeless. You know, I mean, and thank goodness for them. There's angels out there who are willing to put masks on and be active and make sure that people who are less fortunate than them are able to eat. I mean, these things are happening. It's not like they stopped.
Yeah. But we're tribal people. We want to hang out together. We want to hug and shake hands, and so again, and we're all hoping and believing this is going to be short-lived, and we're going to be getting back to whatever the new normal is going to be. But you can only do this for a certain period of time, I think. And people, you can already see people are starting to go, hey, I want to go back to work, or hey, I want to go see my grandkids, or whatever it is, because that's part of our DNA. We're made for fellowship, whether you use that term or not. We're made, to be with each other and hang out with each other, and that's just part of our makeup as human beings. So, like I say, hopefully this is short-lived, and we can get back to something that's a little bit, more conducive to just being with people. Because when my Zoom screen comes up and I see my folks, I know all of them. And I want to see them. I want to be with them. I love these people. They're my people, and it's really difficult for me to just, same thing. He's got his grandkid just miles away, and he has to stay 6 feet away from him. It's just like, come on,
I think we have to be careful as Christians, though, because we are, supposedly we know something that the world doesn't know. We know the reality of Christ. We know the reality of God. And it's not like, it's a club that we belong to. This is something that's been revealed to us. I'm a Christian because I believe in Christ, and yet I'm a rock singer. That doesn't make sense. But I think we need to be careful about, the view of each other, both people in the world and us that belong to the body of Christ. We have to be careful as to what we think the world's intention is. And a lot of times the world's intention is really good. They're humane. They do a lot of good things just from being human. So, there's that area that we have to be good to each other. There's too much of this. Christians are weird and they're stupid, and then we're thinking, oh, the world, they're sinners. They don't know any, but that's not the mind of Christ.
That's not how Jesus ever acted.
No,
he didn't act like that ever.
The mind of Christ loves everyone, even non-believers, and he's passionate about them. So we just need to be careful in this time when we solve these problems that we have.
Maybe turn the news off. Turn the news off.
That's a great way to start. I'll flip it on every couple of days, and it's just, I feel like I just watch and listen to this exact same stuff 3 days before
Groundhog Day, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather watch Groundhog Day over and over again.
And you know what's cool? Like right now, I think, and we've talked about this on a lot of episodes, people are just connecting in different ways.
Yeah.
And on a larger scale. Like I just moved to LA in September, and I have met, between Michael and I doing these interviews, I've met at least 60 people that I didn't know in the industry. Some of them are going to be playing on my record. Michael and I have become really good friends through doing this, and Les and I have become really good friends through doing this. I didn't know Les personally before this, and it's been a really great. I'm very grateful for this time, honestly, and I know it's been difficult financially for a lot of people, and it's going to be difficult financially for a lot of people, and but the cool thing that I found is that in all scales, forget about the church, forget just the human element. Mm-hmm. People are coming together, they're helping, they're caring, they're trying to connect. And I really think that we're going to look back at this time even though it was difficult, as a blessing. And we're going to see some shifts in the way that we relate to each other, I think in a positive way. I don't know. Just my thoughts on that.
See, maybe he should be a pastor. No,
well,
I agree.
We wrote a song on our last album called Trenches the Rock, which is kind of where the title of the film came from. But, that's you grow as a person when things are rough. When things are golden, and you can hear Cecil B. DeMille orchestras going off and the wind's blowing in your hair and stuff. You're driving your Maserati, But when things are rough, somebody gets sick or you've got, you lose your job or you're quarantined or whatever. That's when you really find out what you're made out of and where your faith is and what things matter most to you. And I think hopefully people will be reflecting a lot on that. I'm seeing that from a lot of people, regardless of their religious or non-religious beliefs, is they're really, we had a neighbor saying, gosh, my relationship with my wife is really, or my husband's getting a lot better because, he's home. We're seeing each other a lot more. And I know that can probably work in the opposite way, but on a positive note, relationships are getting strengthened. And I think we all have to stop, when this thing does relax, like, what did I do with my time? Was I productive or was it just one day rolling into another? I know around here, everybody's yards are looking great. I'm detailing my car twice a day. It's just, but that's not going to be
the Maserati.
Yeah. Okay. My Maserati. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one am I going to drive today? The blue one or the,
Praise God.
So
using that and even go ahead.
Productivity, because part of what Matt and I have had here is just try to figure out with various artists or business people how productive they're going to be. How do you get your morale together? How do you get creative? How do you kind of let all the news kind of out of your brain and actually use this time to do something positive? So
right.
I do think that it would be sad for those who come out of this whenever we do who just go, well, I streamed a lot of TV and I didn't even mow my lawn. That would be horrible.
Watch Tiger King 15 times. Right?
Yeah.
I haven't watched that, and I'm intentionally not going to watch it. Just
sounds like me.
That I should.
I've seen pictures. I know, comedians are referring to it. I go, I don't think I'm going to watch this.
Yeah.
Well, my wife can't handle, animal abuse, so it was off the table immediately.
Yeah. Oh,
well, one thing
I thought it was a soap opera. I didn't even know what it was. I had no idea. I figured it out now, but just because it's been, everywhere you go, there it is.
I did want to say, Michael Molenda, he's been making these, talking about using your time wisely and helping people and being encouragement. Michael's been making these kind of Ebo, kind of hippie remakes of songs out there, and it's just kind of like, it's something that's just like, do you want to feel a little bit better? Just kind of watch this little video he makes, and it's really cool that he does that. So I was going to say you guys should go check that out.
Yeah, they're just little 60-second, I don't know, little 60-second bots of hopeful happiness. Because you and I are around the same. I guess we all came up about the same time. So there was that kind of magic in 60s pop music, whether you loved the radio or didn't. That it's pretty rich, dirt to kind of go into and go, let's make something calm out of that stuff.
Yeah, it's true, because there was so much joy. There was so much joy in the pop music back in those days. I mean, and now, then, grunge hit in the 90s and everything was like, depressing. And I think people are looking for some hope. They're looking for a smile on their face, or, I watched some of Jim Gaffigan's stuff he does now. He's stuck at home with his 5 kids and his wife and shoots them having dinner every night. And it's awesome, but it's fun. It's lighthearted. And, there's a lot of love in that family. And I think that's what, that's when it's going to get people through this, not, staring at the abyss all the time, but just keeping that joy in their hearts and thinking, well, how can I help somebody out today? I mean, I don't know. My wife and I take a walk every day, and I was just talking to a guy today. Our 45-minute walks have turned into 2.5 hours or more because we keep running into people that we never knew. And mostly, a couple of guys that are bachelors that, you just say, hi, how you doing? All of a sudden you get their life story. Because, they're lonely. They want to talk to somebody. They don't have a wife or kids or grandkids or whatever, like, we're blessed with. And And so that's become kind of its own thing. It's like, well, here we go. Let's put on our shoes and wonder when we're going to get back.
Yeah.
But I'm loving it because, we've made some pretty cool new friends just by getting out there and saying hi.
I met a friend through the show, actually, and I had a chance to just hang out with her for just a minute, like sit in a car and have a sandwich, and it was, and I got to give her a hug and everything. And it was just so like, it's been 2 months, and it was just, it like gave me energy and blessed me for like a whole day.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's so, we don't realize when you have, I'm single. I live in a house by myself, and there's a lot of people like that.
Yes.
And it's like you're in a prison sometimes.
I can only
like, yeah, it just feels like rough. And if it wasn't for this type of interaction, man, I would be depressed all the time. I mean, I struggle with depression a little bit through this crisis, but thank goodness, I've got good friends that I can talk to and hang out with and do things. But I mean, there's a lot of people that struggle with that. And
well, on that note, as a pastor, Michael, what type of things do you see that people are most worried about, and how can you, what kind of tools do you kind of bring to the table to help them through it?
Well, I think, at the outset, people are really concerned, about their employment, men, a lot of our identification is what we do. We're hunter-gatherers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I bring to the table, the Bible, the Word of God, and just encourage people with that, because over and over, I'm saying, God's in control. This isn't something that he goes, hey, where'd that COVID come from, And so with that kind of just a faith and putting your trust in the Lord, that he's in control, even though you may not like what's going on, whether it's, something besides COVID that, you're not digging, you just keep your focus on there. And I always tell people, keep your eyes on the who, not the what. Who God is, not what's happening or why is it happening, because you're never going to get those answers ever. But just kind of keep the focus where it goes. It's like when Jesus was walking across the water, as the story goes, and Peter says, Lord, I want to walk out there too. And of course he did, because the other 11 weren't going to get out of the boat. So I give Peter credit for that. And he was walking on that water until he started looking at the waves coming in on him. And then he freaked out, and then he started to sink. Lord, save me. And the Lord goes, damn, where's your faith? Had he focused on the Lord, he would have just kept walking to the water. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just truism with us as well, as we just keep our eyes focused on who, and not worry about all this stuff. And, there's so many conspiracies going on about all this. It's just like, it's not going to make you feel better, even if you've got a conspiracy to think, oh, this is what's going on. I mean, who cares? It's out of our hands. Just focus on that. Keep it simple, right? And keep focused, and don't get caught up in the waves and the storms around you. Just keep focused on Christ. And like I say, turn off the television, quit watching the news, and just, stay on the positive. Call a friend, encourage somebody, or have them call you, or whatever. Most of us have somebody we can call, hopefully. And people that we look up to, or mentors or whatever, and just stay in touch with them, and be real with people, and just encourage people. One of the best ways to be encouraged yourself is to be an encourager, and so that's why, encourage others. My wife is the encourager, she's so great to be around. She's encouraging people. I go, I want to be like that. There's a guy in the New Testament called Barnabas, and his name meant son of encouragement. Everybody liked to hang out with Barnabas because he was encouraging. And so we all need to be Barnabas, for Barnabasi. I'm not sure what the plural would be.
Yeah. Barnabasites.
I can attest to that. Like Les, I just want to say thank you for being a good friend to me. Les and I met probably about 2 months ago, probably something like that. And Les and I have been talking on the phone, and he's been just an encouragement to me and a blessing to me, and kind of helped me through a little depression. And we just talked, and he lets me talk way too much on the phone. And, it's like, it's cool. And Mike does too. Mike hears all my stories about things that I got going on. And it's, thank you, Mike, for being a good friend to me in this time too, as well. And Michael Bloodgood, I'll call you later. You'll be my friend.
I'll take you off a call block.
I think that's a good. I think that's a good. A real good point. And it's whether you're Christian or not, to be encouraging and to be open when people are in pain and to encourage them through it. That courage probably is encourage is probably the wrong word, but as Matt has experienced it through his little episodes, it's we all need to not feel like we're gonna fall into the water and drown. We need someone to wrap our hands around us, whether it's your faith or whether it's friends or whether it's all of the above. So I do think it's a great thing to say, Michael, that focusing on letting all the other distractions out of your head and focus on what's important is probably a good thing through this pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, the old saying, when you were college was GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So don't keep filling your life full of garbage because you're just going to reap garbage, right? And so just, again, what are you watching? What are you feeding yourself? What are you doing? And if it's good stuff and it's positive stuff, then you're going to reap good things because that's what you're filling your life full of.
Yeah, if you like anxiety, though, just read Facebook and watch the news all day long.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how the pandemic has kind of forced us to reassess ourselves too, because if you assess yourself as a musician who plays a lot of gigs or is successful out there, or hey, I've got charisma, I can go to a club and people love me, or you're focused on your job which you've lost or has been seriously hampered by this, all of a sudden those extra things like the ego things that we all pull into ourselves in varying degrees, in a sense that's kind of gone. It's like we have to figure out some other way to believe in ourselves and help everybody else, because that really cool job might not be there anymore.
Right.
That venue for you to be a rock star may not be there till next year.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Are you going to turn into a piece of coal, or are you going to get there and help the world?
Yeah, I mean, you can't, if you identify, if that's your identification, that sort of thing, you're going to just get blown out of the water. That can't be who you are. I mean, that might be what you do, or some, maybe we have a list of things that we do, but that can't be who you are, because all of us are seeing how quickly that just is gone. You can, like, I was reading this, I worship, rock stars. Well, the arenas are closed. I worship athletes. Well, you can't see any games anymore. All these things have been just, I worship the economy, my 401. Well, that might be gone too. And so again, our focus has to be in the right place. So we're not like jumping out of the buildings like they did in the Great Depression, because that was those folks' identity. It's everything they were or thought they were was wrapped up in stuff, temporal stuff that's, it's just going to dissipate. And so, you can't put your hopes in those temporary things, or you're going to get blown out, because things like this are going to happen. May not be another pandemic, but who knows what it could be,
Locusts.
Locusts, yeah.
Murder hornet.
Wasps or whatever.
Have you guys heard about the
killer
giant
wasp?
wasps everyone's freaking out
He
about?
lives in Washington, yeah.
Yeah. So have you guys seen them in swarms up there, Michael?
I haven't seen any, although I know they're up here in Washington State. I just literally this morning watched a quick YouTube video on these things. I'm going, oh great,
Yeah, they look pretty nasty.
Well, thank goodness you're not a bee or a honeybee, because it's
they're going to destroy the food supply. I mean, literally, you can take it down the road of fear, just about anything.
Yeah,
you can just, no matter where we live, we kind of forget we just live in a world that we have no actual control of.
Yeah.
And it's like and then we've got all these tribes and peoples all over the entire planet that we really have no control of, and anything can happen. And it's like, where do you get that when they talk about the word encourage, right? Where do you get your courage from? Because courage is what enables you to go out there and survive and live and like, I don't know, just a thought.
Well, just like one of my favorite jokes is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah.
Well, there's a scripture that lines up that says we make our plans, but God directs our paths. So we can make all sorts of plans. That's what I was telling people. Here's my plan, God. I want you to bless it. He goes, no. Here's my plan. It is already blessed. And so we have to get redirected and stuff because of our plans. We have such a finite knowledge. We can, Paul says we see in a glass dimly. We don't really know what's going on. We don't know the whole picture, but he does.
What's cool though, we were talking about helping people in this time. And, one thing that I've found is whenever you do what God wants you to do, and this isn't going to go where you think it's going to go, you get helpers and blessings. And so, like, for example, when you do the will of God to help people and love people, it blesses you, it blesses the people around you, it helps the world, it makes it a better place, and you get people to come alongside of you and help you do it. You always get help when you do things that God wants you to do.
Well, and you're saying the same thing. We have to think outside of ourselves. Some people have so much problems because the only thing that they really care about is themselves. It's all inward focus. And even a mainstream psychologist say, hey, go volunteer at Children's Hospital. Go someplace where people have real need, and you're just saying the same thing. Go out and help people. And then they'll come alongside, like you said, because you're encouraging, they'll be encouraged to encourage others. And that's just kind of how, that's how it works. That's how we're built.
Well, and it's like I think, everybody wants like problems like homelessness and things to be legislated, and the government needs to take care of this, right? Well, what would happen if everybody just went out and when they see a homeless person, they go up to them, they give them $1 or a sandwich, give them a hug, talk to them and say, how'd you get out here on the street? And cared about them just for 5 minutes. Just little thing. I did that like recently, and it was like I was blessed this guy more than he, no one had ever talked to him like that, Yeah. And it was, I think that we forget, and what this pandemic's doing to help is it's helping us realize that you don't need a middleman to facilitate doing good things.
Yes.
You can go direct, person to person. And you don't need permission. You don't need a plan. All you have to do is go there with good intention and try to be good to them. And it's going to make a difference. It's going to change the world and make it better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always telling people, we're called to be on the front line medical workers, EMTs, ambulance drivers, not policemen, not prosecuting attorneys. Instead of trying to figure out who's to blame, go out, figure out how you can help somebody. Just focus there. Don't focus on, again, conspiracy and all that stuff. If two cars collide in an intersection, the guy in the ambulance, he doesn't care who ran the light. He's there to save lives. Doesn't matter who ran the light. Doesn't matter if one guy's drunk it doesn't matter. He's got people that are bleeding out or whatever. He's got to fix them. The cops, that's their job, but that's not our job. Our job is to get out there, jump out of the ambulance and try and stop the bleeding and help people. And don't worry about that other stuff. It's out of our league anyway. And I mean, just stay there. You're an ambulance guy, not a cop. That's not our job.
And what's funny about that is that's the real Jesus.
Yeah.
Like that's the real Jesus. That everybody's like looks at the church and all these crazy televangelists and people making it all about the money, trying to tell you, hey, look at all these wrong people over there that don't believe what we believe. And all of that stuff, forget about that stuff. Yeah. That doesn't even matter. That's just stupid people trying to do things with their egos.
It's not going to win anybody to your cause, whether it's Christianity, whatever, Nobody's going to respond to that in a positive way.
Well, anyway, I know we're getting to the top of the hour here, and this is definitely some different subject matter than we covered, but thank you guys for being here, and I hope you guys can come back sometime another time. We're going to be doing different panels on different things in the future. But thank you so much for coming. I wanted to give everybody kind of around the table here. So we'll start with Les. Les, what's your final word for today?
I really enjoyed it. And I really liked talking to Michael Molenda today. It was great having you here with us. I just love your heart for so many concerns that you have. And it's just been a good time for all of us to get together and talk in front of the whole world. And Kingdom of Rock rocks.
Michael.
Yes.
Michael Bloodgood.
Much of the same thing. It's great to actually, Matt, see your face, in person, and Michael, a new friendship there. I think it's great. I kind of, in fact, this is so intimate. I forgot that people are probably watching this.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, really, it's just been fun. Like the four of us sitting in our bedrooms or wherever we are, and
looks like you're at Bloodgood headquarters there.
Yeah, I know, right. Well,
yeah.
I had to make use of that really expensive repeat banner, so it's become the backdrop now.
Yeah, this is my expensive studio. It's not actually beside my kitchen. It's not.
Oh, all right. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Appreciate anybody that's listening. That's awesome. We're about the Lord, so that's pretty obvious. So come and visit us sometime too. We're at bloodgoodband.com and check us out if you don't know who we are. That'd be kind of fun. And I'm definitely checking out all this Kingdom of Rock stuff going on. I'm pumped. I love it. And you interviewed some of my heroes, so I'm definitely be fixating on all those interviews as soon as I can.
Well, it's not like you have anything better to do since you've been, rejected by every single organization that you work for right now.
I need to find some essential viewing.
Shut down. Michael Bloodgood has been shut down.
He's not essential anymore.
That's right. I'm a non-essential.
Oh my God, that is the most unfortunate phrase.
So, Michael, Molenda, last words.
Well, talking to both of you, I really appreciate your hearts and everything, because as it's always tough for me, because as a non-believer, I just think I turn off, and I've always been grateful and have been a little bit envious of people like you who believe there's a greater good after that. I think that this is the most awesome thing ever, to have that level of faith, and when you can have that level of faith, and as you guys have done, use it for good, rather than to be, well, I mean, there's crappy people in all fields. There's bad televangelists, and there's awesome televangelists, and there's good doctors and bad doctors. So right. As you said, you just got to throw the distortion out of the way and just look for what's good. But I appreciate that, now we all have to be our best selves and help the planet and people. So with the messages that you and Les have put out today, awesome. So awesome. Thank you,
man.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks.
Yes.
And I just wanted to remind everybody, we are going to be getting together this Sunday. We have a guest meetup at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in Zoom. Of course, Les has been coming. Michael, you're welcome to come. Michael Molenda comes most of the time. And we get a lot of our former guests show up, and we talk about the music industry, how we can help each other out, different trends. And like last week, we were talking about artificial intelligence. We had a CEO from an artificial intelligence company in there. We're just talking about things that we could do to innovate and help out. And we're already building things, and it's really cool. And then at 2 p.m., or actually it'll be like 3 p.m. Pacific, we're going to have a Kingdom of Rock community meetup. So if you've been watching the show, you'd like to be a part of that, just join the Kingdom of Rock Backstage Pass Facebook group, or you can message me, and I'll make sure you get an invite to that in Zoom as well.
I should say, figure out how to go. You guys are over there, actually. There. Figure out how to get that movie out so we can all see it.
Oh yeah. Hard copies are on our website, bloodgoodband.com, and then just we're making a bunch of social media announcements when it goes streaming. I don't know when that's going to be, obviously, but the hard copies are out there. The trailer's on YouTube, but not the film yet.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Well, Kingdom of Rock out. Thank you guys for being on the show, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Peace out.
All right.
Tomorrow.
See you guys.
See you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.